where heart-led visionary leaders create legacy of impact and income through the channel of entrepreneurship and do more good in the world. You will get access to all our amazing speakers today and walk away with great wisdom and inspiration so that you can level up yourself and your business to the next level. All right, who's ready to level up? Welcome back to another Thursday event here at the Live School, another amazing speaker panel that I'm so blessed to have put together for all of you, where you hear amazing wisdom and inspiration from our speakers that are really purpose-driven and doing amazing work out there in the world. But before I bring them on to our virtual stage today, I'd love to remind you that this event was brought to you by the Live School. The Live School helps purpose-driven leaders to build a legacy company that does more good in the world through the operations of branding, marketing, sales, systems, and team. Our vision is to empower purpose-driven leaders to use their life's purpose through entrepreneurship. And then our mission is to become the most influential global community in purposeful entrepreneurship. And then lastly, our values are community connection, service, and contribution. So without further ado, I would love to say hi to our amazing speakers today. And I have Megan Jeffrey here joining us today, and more speakers will probably join as we chime into the very natural flow of the conversation. I always love a good space or a room where everybody's open and honest and they share whatever's in their heart based on the message that will come through today. So Meg, I'll start with you. Thanks so much for taking time to be here today. If you can share some of the most meaningful moments that led you to the work that you're doing today, I'd love to introduce you to our audience first.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. I would definitely agree that having intimate connection, and that's actually something that I teach on, is literally the best way to A, learn, and B, to actually grow your business. So hi everyone, I'm Meg, and I have been doing marketing and PR for the last 15 years, but most recently have moved to the online space, doing it as my business. And so this was like an interesting transition over the last couple of years. And what really spurred it, and I think with that prompt, the question of what was the most meaningful moment, it really was around my spiritual awakening. And so I'm sure there's a lot of people in here that can relate. When you go through your awakening, it's what am I doing? Right? And so I was working for a lot of, I was freelancing for a lot of companies within my local area, and really just in a victim mode, right? And so I talk about this too, that when you notice that you're in any sort of victim mentality, which happens in layers, this is right before a breakthrough. You're about to go through a breakthrough when you realize this. And so for me, it was an entire shift in my life. I left a really toxic marriage. I took my 2 boys, started a whole new life. And now I get to really empower people to do the same. What is your purpose? What is the thing that really lights you up and brings you joy? And when you're in that work, whatever that is for you, abundance literally just flows so easily. So I know I said marketing and sales, PR, but really I think the biggest thing that I get to do from my life experience is build wealth from the inside out with my clients. And I have a lot of story I could go into, but I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's a nice thread of the dots that you were able to connect that based on your past, your present, and also the vision that you have for the future and the way that you help people. But you're absolutely in the right room here to talk about awakening, spiritual, feeding our souls, and hearing insights and inner voices and all these intuition and all these words that maybe in the traditional business world, we're kind of what does this have to do with business? So I'm so glad we reached the level of maturity to be able to bring these words to the table and really understand how they help us to work smart and work on purpose and be intentional and create the results that we desire in flow, as you said. I absolutely agree that the combination or the alignment of both will absolutely ensure that we're feeling fulfilled. We have the life that we like to lead, and we're contributing towards something that means something to us. So, Meg, back to your amazing wisdom and expertise that you just shared with us. I'll leave the marketing and sales on the side because I know you focus more now on the. I'm sure you bring that to the table as well, right? Because I really think that no life experience is ever wasted. Everything that you've learned, I'm sure that there's a way that you're bringing in it into the work of your clients, which probably have businesses that need to understand how to do more of this stuff in more of an alignment for them with the marketing and sales. But I want to focus more on the inner work that you do with your clients. So can you describe the process that you actually follow, or I guess patterns that are always repeat with the way that you are helping your clients today? So that I always find that that question helps us kind of understand or educate ourselves on what are some of the things that exist out there that we need to know, so that for the right person looking for that kind of support, then they can connect those dots for themselves as well.
Yeah. So kind of like my methodology is, oh, it's just me. So I think you're asking about my methodology.
We're still here. I'm just bringing you from stage so we hear all about it. Yes, your
This is so
methodology and
funny.
your process.
Awesome. Sounds good. So yeah, when I work with my clients, the first thing that we look at is like just building a connected relationship. Like connection is very, very important to me. All of my communities, I would even say, are like, they're like sisters, they're like brothers, they're family. They're like sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're all like bringing in our magic in these spaces. It is truly like the most magical thing to watch. But it's connection, like getting to know one another. And I mentioned to you, I didn't say it here yet, human design is really where I started with building my business. I was like, oh, I'm not doing marketing and PR anymore. I just want to like read people's charts. So if you do know your human design, like I'd love to hear that. But what it really showed me was actually feminine and masculine energy, and where somebody might come to me, it everyone just ended up starting to ask for help in their business. And I was like, oh, I guess marketing is going to just continue to be in here. Right. But I would look at their chart, and then we would see these areas of femininity or masculinity that had been hidden and that had been repressed. And so through this connection process, first of all, me being able to like look at your energetic blueprint, it's like looking at your soul. And what I'll do is I pull out the pieces of yourself that maybe have been repressed. Or sometimes I even call them golden shadows, where you look at somebody else, and we can all relate to this. You look at somebody else and you're like, wow, they're so good at this. Or like their skin, their hair, the way that they speak, like they're so good at this. This literally means that it lives inside of you and you've repressed it, right? Like it's a golden shadow. We want to have it, but it's already there. And so we start pulling these things out and restoring exactly who you truly desire to be and who you truly are. From there, we can start to put a strategy together, because everybody loves strategy, but I'm like, the strategy is called evolution. But we put a strategy together that is literally like your soul's calling. It's exactly what you were meant to do, exactly how you were meant to come into the world and bring your magic. It feels easy. I let everyone know we just like have to like get through this little bit here where it's going to feel really activating, but then it's going to feel easy. And so from there, we just start to do the easy thing. And I'm like the cheerleader at the end, that we went through like some ups and downs there, you guys, but now I just get to sit back and like cheer you on, and you're off to the races. So I really do love working with people in that transformational space.
Yeah. Well, yes, for did you say that the strategy was the evolution? That was like a tweetable. That's a quote.
Yeah.
I love it. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of similar to what I say. Pay attention to the things we are attracted to because there's a very high chance that those are things inside of us that we haven't even discovered, right? And the more we discover our gifts, the more we get to stay in those strong positionings, and they become our authentic competitive edge and all those amazing things, especially as we're growing our businesses. So I love, love, love the work you do. So let me take you back to marketing and sales now, Meg, that you have such an amazing insight with the process of even human design, this great model that I've also been very blessed to have discovered in my journey of me seeking out a lot of self exploration and a lot of the things that I align with, or that might be natural talents or things that I can just tap into that I could develop over time. Obviously, they connect to that bigger purpose of why I want to do the work that I want to do. So, then how do you look at marketing and sales in maybe a non traditional way now that you have such an amazing insight with the way that you're helping your clients today? I'm just curious, based on your experience, how that has shifted.
Yeah. So one of the big things that we'll really kind of look at is usually your conscious sun placement. And that's getting into like the numbers on the side for anybody that doesn't know. But we'll look at that, and usually one of the things that's really mismatched in the energetics of your business is that you're trying to do something that's really like it's been done before. But your unique design says, hey, this is where, like, this is what you're so good at. So, like, why don't we focus here? And so we'll look at like the offer creation through that lens. And then positioning, I work on positioning through your profile. So your profile, uh, human design is not a personality assessment, but if it were, your profile might be the piece that would show your biggest sense of personality. So when you can like use that to position yourself as the expert and authority, it starts to feel really natural, right? And you don't feel like a fraud anymore. You don't feel like an imposter. You're like, this is actually true. Boom, easy. And then we just double down on the strengths, right? So I call the defined centers, so these are the colored in pieces of your chart, your innate strengths. Like you were born with these. And sometimes those will take a little bit of deconditioning as well, but these are like your strength areas. And so let's like really double down on those. Then all of the undefined places in your chart, I call these wounds to wisdom. So you probably have quite a few wounds that live in these areas. When they turn into wisdom, you become the perfect guide for someone else who has a similar story or who's had a similar path. And so I work with like a lot of coaches and a lot of mentors, but even the service providers, like for instance, I work with a copywriter. She has an undefined throat for anyone that is familiar with human design. She has an undefined throat, and she's able to guide her clients, like pull the story out of them because of the wisdom she's created in her throat space, right? Like she can pull the message out and then boom, there it is. It's such a gift. So yeah, we're going to create strengths out of everything essentially, and like double down on the things that feel really, really good and really authentic.
Yeah. Oh, I love that connection. That's deep. So as far as it supports the messaging, it supports the positioning, it supports even later on when you grow and you want to hire people to help you. Then you know you can stay in your zone of genius, as we heard it before, or as we say, and then you can complement other people, maybe do that for your team as well, right? Because the more they understand, I could just see how that can really help somebody grow and scale and be aligned where everybody's in harmony, right? Because obviously we all want to work and do work that it's aligned with some of those natural gifts, and be open to obviously improving things that are going to help us get to certain results. So we're more motivated to grow through the, as you said it, from wound to wisdom. I love that, the W's, because it helps us remember that. And it's almost like, even for myself, the thing that I'm doing today was definitely one of the opportunities that I worked on, because it was important for my message. It was important for me to serve, which was because I'm a high introvert. So more of the networking, more of the even putting something like this together, or having conversations with people that I didn't know before, right? So like all of these things are so powerful. And then it's amazing how a lot of those areas of weaknesses turn into your strengths, and now you get to help others with that. So it's just like a beautiful way that we give back through our experience and through our learnings. Meg, thanks so much for all the amazing wisdom that you shared with us thus far. I'll definitely come back to you at the end. And I would love to introduce Jeffrey Klein. We had a beautiful connection when we initially connected onto the panel. So Jeffrey, thanks so much for coming on. And the same question for you. Can you share some of the most meaningful moments that led you to what you're doing today?
Thanks so much for having me, and Meg, thanks for that. I'm not familiar that much with human design. I just did my chart online, and so curiously looking at some of these things that actually make some sense, especially my multi hyphenate type, because I do have my hands in a bunch of different things. When people kind of ask me about the that meaningful moment, it reminds. So I grew up with a very supportive family, and my father in particular was the kind of concept of that you have to love what you do. That's a concept. And I repeat often to people I come into. If you love what you do, you're not really working, and things like that. And I think it has to do with discovering what that zone of genius you have in order to pursue that. And it took me a while to get on that path. I like to say I had a non-linear path to where I am now. But when I was living in England, I had 3 small children. I was working in real estate, and I was very unhappy. And I believed I had to continue doing what I was doing because I had a mortgage, I had children to feed, I had car payments, I had all this responsibility, and therefore you can't give up what you're doing. That's providing the means to be a supportive, father, husband, all those things. And thankfully, so I was saying that period of time I was waking up with dread, which is not a good place to be. And it was just because I wasn't living my best self. I wasn't pursuing the things. And I had earlier in my life been in a very creative environment in the film industry where I was surrounded by the kinds of people and doing the kinds of things that were really fulfilling me. And now I was working in something that just wasn't. And so I was having multiple days of waking up going, what am I going to do? And I had thankfully the next thought about what I need to do, which was all the reasons why I couldn't change, I couldn't shift, became the reasons I had to shift because of my family and my kids in particular being kind of that inspiration of like, how can I be authentic and be a role model for them if I'm involved in something that's making me miserable? And so I didn't just quit my job. I ran my own company, so I'd have to fire myself. But I did kind of fire myself in a certain degree where I said, okay, we're going to look to do something else. And when I made that change, I'm kind of a strategic person. So I didn't just say, okay, I'll just go and figure out what to do. Which is like, I came up with a plan. Like, okay, here's the steps that we're going to do. And I jokingly wrote my midlife crisis plan and sort of mapped out, okay, here's where I am and here's where I want to go. And here's how I'm going to get there. And a lot of those things happened. And I think having that self-belief was really important, as well as having the support around me from my parents, my in-laws, and my wife. And it changed it changed the shift of my life. And so I went from being in the throes of a real estate and being a property manager to adding working for a design agency and working in marketing and realizing that's where I needed to go in order to kind of embrace my creative spirit and all the other things. And then as I shifted, I recognized even that it's really important within any context to figure out what is your kind of zone of genius, your focus. And so when I started marketing, I was doing everything. I would be like, "What do you need?" And I'm like, so I
Non-stop.
was as an entrepreneur, you don't want to leave any money on the table. So I was, from brand strategy to design, I was like, I got people who can do whatever you need to do.
You
And
design
two things
logos too? Did you design
oh yeah,
logos too? Okay.
I'm not an artist. I always make a distinction between being creative and being artistic. I have a really good eye for design, but I can't, draw out of a paper bag. So I had people around me, thankfully, really talented designers who would execute. I would come up with a lot of the ideas, and then they would bring them to life. And I realized that's my skill, is to kind of be that bridge between the business client and the creative department. And so and I love it. But even within that, I realized like I needed to focus a little bit more, and I developed my worldview that I often share with people, which is, what are we all trying to do as human beings? I think this goes, you talked about, connecting the dots. And so to me, it's about connection. That's the ultimate goal of human existence, is to connect with people. I'm like, okay, well, what's the best way to connect with people? And I'm like, well, effective communication. If we can communicate effectively to people, then we can connect with them. I'm like, okay, well, what's the best? And this is where I spent a lot of my energy of what's the best way to communicate. And I've decided, or I believe is more accurate, that the best way to communicate is by telling a story. And I looked into kind of some of the science behind storytelling and why our brains work the way they do. And so that became kind of my calling card as a speaker and an author about, okay, this is how you do it. And then what's the best way to tell a story is visually. And that's what I do. I produce a video and animation. So it all came into kind of full circle in terms of my worldview. And now I'm adding AI on top of that, not because it's the answer, but it's a powerful tool to help you get at the root of those things. And I believe pretty strongly that AI can enhance creativity, not replace creativity, which I think, or replace the need for thoughtful approach to whatever project you happen to be doing. And so that, I just wrote a book. It's interesting. I wrote a book that came out called The Content Beast, because when I speak, I would often talk about, you have to feed the beast. You have to continually, he's always hungry. And so you have to find content to feed the beast. And I'm already working, I've created a signature keynote, and it will become the next book, which is going to be when AI meets the content beast. So it's about, yes, there's the foundational things, feed the beast, and now it's like, okay, how can you use this really powerful tool of AI to make it, even better. But yeah, so for me, it's been a journey.
I love it. Intentional questions for you. So I thank you both for being here and sharing your knowledge and expertise. But what something that stood out to me based on kind of your life journey, right? Your experience of how you got to what you're doing today is also the strategic piece that so aligns with me, right? Because, we have to understand that that's how we plan, right? Back to kind of knowing ourselves with what Meg was sharing with human design. If that's how you operate in the world, then you honor that, right? Because I was the same way. I strategically planned how to graduate, get my bachelor's in 3 years. I strategically planned how to go from my full-time to my business. And knowing yourselves and how you are, you should honor that, right? And I think that's very important, because sometimes we just look at role modeling or examples out there, and we can get into the comparison mode, and that's really not helpful, because the more you know yourself, you stay in those areas of geniuses that we mentioned before. So Jeffrey, I love the work that you are doing with video animation. I've seen some of the work that you are doing, but I have a few questions for you. So how does video animation help us with that process that you already clarified and articulated, as far as communicate our message to the right people, so that we're able to serve and help them at the highest level? So what's behind video animation? Why is it important? What problem does it actually solve? And how does it help entrepreneurs and CEOs grow their companies?
A couple different ways. Let me kind of back and say, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, what are you trying to do? You're trying to connect with your audience. So before you even figure out the format or the way you're going to create your messaging, you have to understand your audience. And so in my book, and I often preach about the 11th commandment, which is know thy audience. So I believe it's really important when you're meeting with a client, you ask lots of questions. You get at who their audience is. You have them think about, what does their audience care about? Why are they going to be interested in what you're doing? Because most people are, I've said this and some people get upset, nobody cares about what you do. They're like, what do you mean nobody cares? I'm like, nobody cares about what you or your business does. They only care about what that business does for them. And so you have to always be kind of your audience centric, your customer centric self, and then recognizing, okay, what is the value you bring? In terms of video, I do video and I do video animation. So I'm a fan of both. And I think there's a distinction in terms of what makes the most sense. But video as a general way of connecting with people, there's just lots of reasons why it's one of the more powerful ways that we communicate with one another. Part of it is how our brain is oriented. So the stat I often share is that, we can process visual content 60,000 times faster than we can text. So if we're looking for the shortest distance to connect with someone, visual content's always going to win out. And it's just how we're oriented, I think, as a species, that we want visual communication. It's what we crave. And all the studies have shown people would rather watch a video than read a long blog. Now, that being said, it's about knowing your audience. If you have an audience that happens to be readers, then maybe video is not going to be the first thing you do. But all of us are more often going to enjoy visual content than non-visual content. I think they say, we're all different kinds of learners. About 60% of us are visual learners. But even so, with video, the reason, because you have also auditory learners. So with video, you're giving them both audio and vision. And so therefore, you're really tapping into a larger group of people that are going to resonate. The other reason why I like animation in particular is because it's, I don't want to say disruptive is probably overstating it, but it's the type of thing that can stop the scroll. So that's one thing we always talk about. People are always on their phones, they're constantly distracted, and they're watching videos, and then an animation comes up, they go, oh wait, that's different. And so I think the other thing about animation is, from a production perspective, if you're on a smaller budget, you don't have to worry about lighting, you don't have to worry about sound, you don't have to worry about cast members, hiring talent. It's much more contained in terms of the costs, or can be. And you can do whatever you want. You can have someone flying in space, so you can have, I think, a little more. You can do some of that with effects, but usually the cost is greater. I think you have more ability to be creative and think outside the box with animated video in a way that is sometimes a challenge with just straight live video. I love both, but I do lean towards the animated video because I think it's a little different. And I think the goal of all businesses is to try and stand out. So that's why I think all that being said, it all starts with what's the story you're trying to tell. So people always go, oh, you're so into visual, you don't care about words. No, words are hugely important. Every project we start with is about, animated videos start with the script. We don't do anything until we have an approved script. So crafting that story that you want to tell that's going to connect and then bring it to life is kind of the way that I feel is the most powerful way to connect and engage with your audience.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that education piece, because most people don't, at least for me, so what is the difference between video and then animation?
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about that. I'm not sure how that is different.
So live video is what we're doing here. You see people in the flesh. And so there are a lot of people who would do video. Well, you think about ads on TV, they're all live video, or at least 85% are probably people who are in it, whether it's actors or the person themselves. It's a video of real life, real video. Whereas animation is kind of, people think of cartoons. And yes, that can be kind of what animated video is, but it's not always cartoony. When we go through the process of creating an animated video, we talk about the style. So is it more cartoony, or is it more illustrative and graphic? And so I work with a lot of B2B companies, and they're like, I don't want a cartoon. I'm like, let me show you something that's not a cartoon. And so there are ways to have it, to create that particular message that's going to be compelling to their audience based on knowing the style that's aligned with their brand. End of the day, whether you're doing live video or you're doing animated video, you need to make sure that you're on brand. And I know Meg will probably agree, if you don't understand your brand personality, if you don't understand how that integrates with your audience, then you're going to be in trouble. And I was showing my students this morning the TED talk by Simon Sinek, Start With Why, and based on his book. And it's, to me, the kind of foundational piece. When I meet with clients, there it is. Look at that. I have mine over here. It's the breakthrough we all need. So it explains how people make decisions based on why a company does something or a brand does something rather than what. And so every company needs to understand that first. Why do you exist? Why does your company, why? And the reason I think the why matters is because you have to give people a reason to care. Why should I care about whatever it is you're doing? And the reason I should care is because of the belief, the purpose, and the why behind what you do.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's why, brand is something bigger than our products and services. Even with, the work that I do, it's always connecting that cause, that service behind whatever service or product that you have. So I love that we're all kind of talking about the different pieces of the branding piece, whether, we're talking about videos or positioning or messaging. All these things are all great components that make a brand that is visible and that stands out in the marketplace for sure. So now, Jeffrey, this is bugging me. So now so how do I know as a business or as a company, what are the pros and cons of each? I get the live video. We all, I think, have enough education and information that's the closest that we can get to humans, at least virtually in this virtual environment. But how do I know, if I need the animation piece of video, and how does that actually connect with my audience? What are the pros and cons? Which one's better? All of that.
I like to answer that by saying it's not one's better than the other. They're different.
Mm-hmm.
And they can both be powerful at sharing your message. Oftentimes, it will depend on, is there a quote unquote spokesperson? So is the video, because a lot of the videos that we do are interview style, where I'm asking questions of the CEO or their marketing person, or I'm asking something about their customers. And so if you're trying to get the brand to share a message about the representative of that brand, that person who represents the brand, then live video may be the best way to do it. Now, with that being said, it may also be that the live person is not a very good speaker, is not very good on camera. So if you want to share, and we've done it a couple times where we've turned people into animated characters to avoid that problem. But I think, again, it has to do with your sense of what your brand is about and the story. Is the story better told in person? So I'll give you a quick example. If we were going to shoot a furniture company, could we do an animated video? Yeah, we could. But by actually showcasing pieces of the furniture, that may be more powerful because people want to see the stuff. So if you're an accountant, however, you don't need to show them the numbers, or the calculator tabulating it. Animated video might be able to do that in a more fun, dynamic way. So I think either can be effective in both ways. But the pros of, I'll just share again, the pros of animation. So the pros of video are that it's live and it's the person speaking. So people will go, oh, I can relate to that person. And sometimes you relate to a person in the flesh, then you might do an animated character. I know people who are in love with Jessica Rabbit or whatever, but generally speaking, I think, people can connect with the person. The other idea of animation is you can still be very powerful and make it emotional and make it connect and resonate with people based on the story that the animation is telling. And again, if you have a really busy executive or a team that's really busy and they don't have time to spend shooting a video, then animation may be a good alternative. If you're worried they're in a noisy environment and you don't want to spend the money to hire a sound stage or do some of the things that are challenges with live video, you can fix with money. But if you're not wanting to spend the money on those particular things, then animation may be a good alternative because you definitely have cost savings when it comes to location, and time, because it's all being done at the back end. I mean, we do discovery and we do there's still a process to it. And I think that's true no matter what you do. You said about being strategic. Having a really streamlined way of doing the project is always going to be important. I don't care what you're doing. The kind of fly by the seat of your pants business is not sustainable, in my opinion. And so, you have to, the great quote of, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And
Yeah.
it sounds cliche, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
And so we always try and, my job as a producer is to keep things on schedule and on budget so that we end up with the result that we're looking for.
I love it. That's where my strategic and process-oriented brain was going with the animation, like scaling, right? That's another way to be able to do it. I love it. And I think back to what we were saying all along, know thyself, know thy brand, know thy clients, know thy community, know the people that you are serving, and every level of stage of growth that you're going to be in. You might leverage these tools, different tools, right, to be able to help you scale and sustain what you have, and independently build an asset that, it's an asset that you could choose to do whatever you like with that moving forward as well. So, and Jeffrey, I want to let you go without getting some insight around your keynote and your book around what you just mentioned with content, feeding the beast, and then AI. So, what can you share around those three topics?
Sure. So the book, The Content Beast, is based on the premise that we have to continually feed the beast. As a business, you need to continually look to ways to communicate that message to people. And so the book is broken down into 4 simple processes. It's why you need to feed the beast. So there's things about our attention spans and infobesity, which is the incredible amount of information that's generated all the time, and how do you cut through that. So part of that is about understanding that you need to feed the beast, and part of the way is because we're just overwhelmed with information and we have short attentions. Then we talk about who, back to that 11th commandment, know the audience. The second piece is who you're really presenting, creating this content for, and that's about what kind of content you need to feed the beast, and then how to do it. So it's got a lot of kind of bonus materials to try and help you actually implement these things. So and it also has a bunch of stories. So to me, that's the best combination, is to tell stories to keep people engaged and then give them practical, tangible takeaways that they can actually implement to improve their business. So that's the basic premise for why I wrote the book. But right after I was getting ready to launch it, I fell down the rabbit hole of AI in a good way. And I believe that AI is going to change everything, whether we like it or not. And in marketing in particular, it's going to touch a lot. And so I was thinking about the fact, how can I be a content marketer, which is how I look at myself, without embracing this incredibly powerful tool of AI. And so what I'm doing now in terms of both my keynote and in workshops that I do is I'm trying to help. I think everyone is suffering from AI overwhelm. Every day there's a new story about it, and there's a new this, and you're like, you don't even know where to start. And so part of what I've done with when AI meets the content beast as both a keynote and as a workshop is to help people kind of take a breath. I've done the hard work of, taking the certifications and reading all the blogs and listening to all the podcasts. And now I can take the complexity and simplify it in a way so you get the points of the AI that you need to know. So understanding a little bit of the background and where we're up to, what it can do, what it can't do, some of the pitfalls, some of the opportunities, and then a little bit about here's how you do it. So my next newsletter is going to be called, the AI, the human bookends of AI. And so I believe that you need, AI is really awesome, but it's not a magic wand. It's not it's not that magic bullet that does everything. And I really believe you need a powerful person at the front end of any task. You're going to engage with AI to prompt it properly. So prompt engineering, it's been a hot topic. What does it really mean? It's how you interact with the AI to get the best results. And there's kind of an art and science, and I've created my own kind of proprietary way of doing it. But it's more than just asking the question. It's a conversation. You get results, and then you can clarify it, and you can tweak it. And so there's a methodology for how to get the best out of AI. Even when you do all those things really well, you may not get the perfect output. And therefore, you need the human bookend at the other end to review and analyze it and edit it to make sure it didn't hallucinate and make something up. That even what it is telling is actually accurate and verifiable and relevant to what you're actually trying to figure out. And then the last part, which goes in what we're talking about, and then it's on brand. So it actually is in the words and the tone and the style that mirror what kind of brand, what your brand is all about. So there's a lot there. And my goal is to basically help get you started. Maybe a little bit, maybe even play with it a little bit, and to kind of level up, as you talked about. What we're trying to do here is to help people level up to be able to use it more effectively, to increase the productivity. Yes, but one of the things about AI that I heard that I really liked, which is AI is not necessarily going to make things make you less work. So it's not like, oh, I use AI and then I have less work. It's not going to make you have more work. It's going to hopefully get you better work. So it's going to take the output. You're going to still need to put in time and energy that you would normally. It might be slightly different how you're using it. But the goal, if you're doing it effectively, is that the output that you then provide is better than it would have been without AI.
Yeah.
And that's how I
Yeah.
kind of view it.
Very relevant for sure. It's definitely a hot topic, and there's always so much to learn about it because it's moving so fast and rapid, right? So, yeah, thank you so much for connecting all those dots. I really think that's where the value of mentorship is, where the value of any container we put together is, any book we read, any book we author, right? It's someone that has already spent time, energy, resources, all of that into a certain topic, and they're bringing you the most relatable things that you need, or maybe even things that you need in the right steps. Because sometimes I think that's the other piece that's missing when we're trying to piece a lot of the different things, from random different sources. That takes time, and I think time is absolutely the most important commodity that we have. Jeffrey, you will let us know more information on the book a little bit after as well. So I want to thank you for everything that you just shared thus far with us as well.
Thank you.
All right, beautiful. Moving on to beautiful Dawn. Renee Bova is joining us. Dawn, thank you so much for coming on. And I know that we're going to have a one-to-one conversation today, but I think it's better to have all these amazing friends and be able to connect also and learn and grow with one another. So looking forward to also having you share some of the most meaningful moments that lead to the work that you're doing. And then I'm looking forward to asking you for some insight around the amazing work that I know you do. It's more like a mission, a bigger mission into helping people with the area that you help people with. So the room is all yours. Welcome.
All right. Well, I apologize for being late, but I was actually working this morning. So, um, and part of what I
Right
do,
on
I'm a nurse
time.
practitioner.
Hmm.
Yeah, okay. I'm a nurse practitioner and I help people suffering from addiction and mental health disorders. So it's a really important work, but in my own story, my life has been drastically impacted by substance use disorder as I lost my child, and then I lost an adopted child. My dad died in a car accident. So what I did is, as an artist, I picked up a paintbrush after my son passed away at the urging of my sister, and I didn't understand the science behind it. I didn't understand the logic. But what I did discover is it was the first time in about 2 years since he had passed away that I was able to sit still and be totally at peace and calm and experience a joy like I hadn't before. So I just decided to start painting, and from that evolved a little business called Heartwork by Dawn. And at first, I was just going to sell art because I am selling art. But as I started to get into this deeper, and I'm a science geek, so I like the research, and I started researching about the neuroplasticity of the brain and the neural pathways and all the good stuff that happens when we express creativity. And that doesn't matter if you're an artist or an accountant or a lawyer or a math, who cares? It has been proven statistically to improve outcomes in life and business no matter what you do. So from this, I got involved in an artist group, and we wrote two international best-selling books. I mean, the first one, when we released it, I was blown away. first it went to number one in this category, and then this category, and then overseas, and then we did it
Mhm.
again. So the first book is called Creative Life Book, which really coincides with my mission and my values. And the second one is called Radical Self Love, which, if you don't have radical self love, you've got to start there before you can do anything in business, in life, anything. And I started exploring a lot of healing modalities. I am I'm not certified, but I studied a method called healing touch, which is energy therapy it's similar to Reiki, but it was developed by an RN and a nun. And I went to Chicago and learned some of those techniques. I journal, I do manifestation, positive affirmations. So initially, I just started sharing some of that stuff on Facebook, and then I have a podcast. And, my business just keeps evolving with me. And really, my whole goal is to help people through life's darkest moments. And we all have dark moments, maybe not to the extent that I have, but everyone has dark moments. And what I've discovered personally for me is and you can't skirt around it, once you travel through those dark moments, man, the sunset is more beautiful. The sunrise, I mean,
Mhm.
I saw a turtle out. I'm vacationing in Florida. I saw a turtle out here basking in the sun, and it was like I was like a kid in a candy store. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so exciting." Life is so exciting and so beautiful, and I'm able to live in the moment and, you know, create this business helping other people and love every minute of it. And that's really what I'm all about.
Dawn, I love it. Two dots I just connected for you based on the amazing work that you're doing out there in the world, and sharing your personal journey as well of trials and triumphs and challenges, right? I love that you mentioned that you shared that those are the things that exactly are leading you to the work that you're doing and the purpose that you have in the world. But back to kind of the two topics of your books. How do we stimulate our creativity, or I guess discover and stimulate our creativity through self love? How can we connect both of those two important, let's call them pillars, so that we are more aligned with the work we're doing? We're have a competitive edge, we're innovative, all the amazing after effects or byproducts that happen. What can you share with us? What's coming up for you right now based on your experience, just
So
from that question?
with yeah, with radical self-love, um one of the things that you need to keep your eye out for is fear. Anything based in fear, you know, uh, can set you back. So when I look at fear, I think, why am I afraid? What's holding me back? And let's just push through it. The other thing is, like somebody mentioned imposter syndrome. I had that, but really that's an ego driven thing because we're all here, we're all energetic beings, we come from the same energy. And if I am not putting out the energy that I want to receive, then I'm going to, self sabotage. So when it comes to imposter syndrome, I look at that now as I don't want to go there, because what I have to create and what I have to give to the world is every bit as important as somebody else. And maybe not everyone will align with my mission or my journey, and that's okay. They can find somebody else. But I really do connect with the people that are focused on themselves. And we've been taught, oh, you can't be selfish. You can't be so focused on yourself. Yes, you can. You have to. When you get on an airplane, they tell you, put the oxygen on you first. Then you can save somebody else. And I did a lot of hamster wheel stuff when I was dealing with my child suffering from substance use disorder, doing everything I could to save him, and in the process, losing little pieces of me. So I think it's really important, when it comes to radical self-love. That's stated that way for a reason. Because if you can't love yourself first and foremost, you have nothing to give to anyone else. And I think that's really the first pillar of my whole purpose, business, whatever, is that piece right there. That will lead to freedom, it'll lead to abundance, it'll lead to a joyful life, and that's one of the things that you can work on with journaling or artistry or poetry. My husband, he's an attorney, and after Bradley passed away and his mom passed away, she had closets full of yarn. And he brought all this yarn home. The next thing I know, he's up there he made this beautiful mandala Afghan, and he made an Afghan for my daughter. And he proudly boasts to his buddies, yeah, I'm a knitter.
Yeah.
Because that's his creative outlet, you know? And it makes him a better attorney. It makes him a better grandpa. It makes him a better spouse because he has that outlet to release and express that creativity. Music, I have another friend that she has this program, Dance to Heal, and she had breast cancer, and she's a survivor, and she has danced her way through that healing journey and just emits this beautiful light. So we all have something. We are created to be
It's
creatives,
great.
no matter
Yeah.
what.
I just got goosebumps. Thank you so much for that insight, Dawn. And I love that you shared that the imposter syndrome, even the whole thing around it, is ego driven. I love that. I never heard of that
Mm-hmm.
before. And just the fact that exactly as you were speaking, that's kind of the insight that you gave me personally. It's like, wait, creativity, it's not something we chase, right? Because that's the thing with us. We always think it's outside of us. All these things are right there, right? So without even asking or putting pressure on ourselves to be creative, we just, as long as we understand how to, stay aligned, stay authentic, and not worry about other, who's going to align with us, who's not going to align with us, people pleasing, and all those other things that most of us might struggle with at a certain point of in time. And also as we grow and scale and as we evolve, as you mentioned, with our businesses, just stay in that base, stay in that authentic alignment, because the right people
Mm-hmm.
are always going to be attracted towards you. And creativity is just a byproduct of, a lot of those creative processes that we enjoy doing anyway. It shouldn't be a chore. It shouldn't be work. It shouldn't be, I mean, we have to be intentional with scheduling them for sure, but it's not a
Yeah.
chore. It's not just something that we just find out there. So yeah, amazing, amazing work. That's your speaking topic for sure. I love that because yeah, I think it's so relevant and also connected back to even why you even titled the book that way, right? I mean, I'm just going back to my personal life. I'm like, why did I think that that was the right thing to say? Because that's what I believe, right? So staying true to our messages, I think it's very important as well, and to whatever else we put out there in the world. So Dawn, Meg, Jeffrey, I so thank you. I am always so inspired by everybody that comes on, and so grateful to have had you on. We've actually reached the end of our event today, so I'd like to go back to each one of you and maybe ask you. I think something that's coming up for me today is if you can share one impactful lesson in your school of life or the journey of your life that you have learned, um, or if you don't want to do that, if you have a book, what would be that impactful lesson that you can draw out of the book that you've authored that you can share with us? And then lastly, where is it that the audience can further continue this conversation with you? So I'll go back to Meg.
I'm like, oh, what's the one lesson? What do I want to leave you with? Well, I first want to say that everyone here, I'm like, oh, can we like hang out again? You guys are awesome. And I have like I had so many things that were like coming out as you guys were speaking. So thank you. you know, you said something around the self-love, and this has actually been my email line, like, I don't know, probably for 10 years. And it's what you give to yourself, you give to the world. And so really, and I don't know where that quote came from. So if I could give credit, I would. But like we've all kind of said, like, it's really about tuning in to yourself. I think so often we pedestal all these different people that we see on the internet, or that we meet, all these maybe famous people, and it's like all that they did was they stayed true to themselves. That's all you have to do too. And so when you focus inward and you give yourself the love and the attention and the gentleness and all the things, you become an overflow of that. And great leaders are an overflow. And if you are a business owner of any kind, you are a leader, right? So like really, really, really tap inwards and like create that space for yourself, whatever that looks like for you. I would like definitely suggest daily rituals for you, boundaries. I know this is like now like a whole thing. I'm like, I don't evolution. I just like
one lesson. I know it's a challenge because we've learned so much, right? And it's a challenging question, but I love it. I think, Meg, what you were also like, insight, giving me an insight around is even that quote, right, that you mentioned, because I'm such a rebel myself with my messaging. I'm like, if that's what connects with me, that's got to connect with the right people. And it's exactly how it works, right? And we understand, I teach marketing, I teach sales. I understand there's frameworks, there's processes, there's ways that we can draw our message so that it really resonates with the person that we're trying to speak to. But pay attention to the things that speak to you, right? And make those part of your brand message. Don't be afraid. Title the books that way. Title your talks that way. Title your programs that way. The more you repeat it, the more you have the synchrony of all this beautiful messaging. So I love that you shared that quote resonates with you, because I pay attention to that myself, right? And I think that's, out of all the amazing lessons that you shared, I think that's one that I wanted to emphasize, because I really feel like it's important, for people to really trust those messages that come through for them. And those are the most authentic brands. And those things have made me very successful, monetization wise, and very, happily fulfilled. And that's the one thing that gives me certainty. Then I don't have to worry about other people taking or something. That comes from scarcity, right? Back to kind of the imposter syndrome, because that came inside my heart. Even these events, I'm like, whatever comes up, you have to trust that wisdom that comes up is the right message at this moment for people, right? So just trusting our intuition and just leaning more on that, I think is very, very beautiful. Meg, where is it that people can continue the conversation with you?
You can find me on Facebook at Meg Zeke. You can find me on Instagram, Meg Abundance Uprising. You can really find me anywhere with my name. But I don't know if you wanted us to share anything else too. Did I miss something?
Do you have a book? Did you author a book yet?
Oh, I can share a book as well. It's just a shadow workbook, because I talk about those golden shadows, and our shadows really become a very, very important piece of our leadership.
What is the book title and author? Do you have it offhand?
It's actually literally just called The Shadow Workbook. It's very plain.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'd love to go to Jeffrey next. Oh, Jeffrey, you're muted.
First, I have to unmute myself. That's always the first thing to do. But I was going to say, the first thing I would say is thank you. And to Dawn and Meg, it's been really wonderful to hear your perspectives on things. The one lesson I'll provide, and I'll give a couple subheaders under it, but is to stay curious. I think as a leader, if you stay curious, you're willing to learn, and then surround yourself with those other people who support that curiosity, who support that growth, you'll be in good hands. Because something that Meg said about leaders, we all are leaders. And someone a while back talked to me about what really good leaders are teachers. but I believe that really good teachers are also equally good learners because they recognize you can learn from lots of people. And the best way to practice something is by teaching someone else. So I believe in that as well. And then my book is The Content Beast. You can find out all about it at thecontentbeast.co. And then again, like Meg, you find my name is, there's a Jeffrey Klein that's an architect. That's not me. But otherwise, if you put in Jeffrey Klein spelled with the G, you can find me LinkedIn, etc. But thank you all. It's really been a pleasure.
All right. Pleasure's been all ours. Dawn.
All right. So this is not really a quote, but it's a mantra. And I adopted it after an interview with a podcast guest, Joe Davis. And I say it every day. Nothing shall enter this sacred space that doesn't serve my highest good. And by focusing on me and keeping myself sacred and happy and abundant and, getting rid of those negative thoughts, I'm going to be able to serve a better population and help more people. If you want to reach me, the best way is to hop on my website, Dawn Renee. It's Beauvais. I used my middle name, Renee, because everybody says Bova. And it's Dawn Renee Beauvais. So dawnreneebeauvais.com. And I started the Ripple experiment where I ripple out artwork and, I have different entrepreneurs that give me something to ripple out. And while I was in Sarasota, I just happened to get into this gallery show that was a VIP private showing, and I met some of my my idol artists, and it was just like 10 of us in that gallery. So it was a surreal experience, and I was able to ripple out some of the art, and I've rippled it out. I travel a lot, so I ripple these pieces out everywhere, and my Ripple Club is really growing, and that's on the website too. So it's just about spreading love, kindness, joy, and getting some exposure because, the social media arena is getting tough now. And people like that face-to-face contact. They like receiving something. So the Ripple Club is a way that I can ripple kindness, love, art, joy out into the world.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And absolutely connect with all our speakers. Speakers connect with each other. I think that's the power of connection, back to what we're talking about. And the speakers will be tagged inside our Life School. And we also have the Life School Community Expert Program, which Dawn is a recent member on the community, and we do so many things on there, but I don't want to tell you all the benefits. I have a video that if you want to hang around, you can listen to that more in detail and see if it's a good fit and alignment with you. But I want to thank you all for your attention, and thank you so much for coming, and I will see you with another event here at the Life School. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
I invite you to be one of our community experts for our biggest global community of purpose-driven entrepreneurs and CEOs who are led by purpose, and of course also learn how to align their profits in their companies and in their businesses. Their legacy through entrepreneurship is really their way, their vocation, in how they actually get to do more good in the world. In our Community Expert C-Suite program, we have included amazing benefits for you as a purpose-driven entrepreneur, where in our audience of over 30,000 purpose-driven entrepreneurs, I warmly introduce you to high-level quality connections that can help you collaborate, further advance your cause, and also align your purpose and your profit as well. Another benefit for joining our community as a community expert is the connection between the free and also the paid speaking opportunities that we add into our membership every week, so that you get to create magic with you speaking and sharing your message with other audiences as well. This way, leveraging a lot of those high-level relationships to grow your own business and to be able to speak alongside the amazing work that you are doing on the day-to-day. We also invite you to our twice-a-year conferences. You'll be one of our keynote speakers as part of the community benefits, where of course you get visibility, showcasing the work that you're doing, but also being able to connect further with amazing purpose-driven entrepreneurs. Another benefit of being a member in the community is that you get to be featured in our monthly magazine, and you get to be a contributor to our magazine as well. And then lastly, of course, you get to participate in our community speaking events that we host every week inside our community, so that you can further share your message, but also, most importantly, be able to constantly connect to amazing people that you can add to your network to further nurture those relationships and form amazing strategic partnerships in the long-term growing of your business as well. In order to find out more information and ways to join our Community Expert Program, feel free to go to my website, elonalaparicoaching.com/events, and you'll be able to get more information around some of these benefits, but also new benefits that we're always adding to our Community Expert program, so that, again, you can align yourself with the right community that's going to support you, but also, most importantly, help you nurture and grow your purpose and your profit as well this year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you with another episode.